It's also the same thing when you meet someone for the first time and you feel like you've known them from forever as well.
Mm-hmm. And so this also speaks to the concept of reincarnation, not in the literal way that we usually
Think about it.
understand it.
Sheldon, we can't see you.
Well, what's going on?
I don't know.
Oh, okay, I see. All right. I think I know why. Hold on.
So,
Tell me if I come back up.
so we,
Am I there?
Nope, we just see an icon.
you could be an
Should I?
icon.
Should I hang up again?
Yeah.
There you go. You're back.
Okay, I tried to run a pursuit of
It's
truth
not go
to
again.
look at the post and post on as well, but I couldn't. So, all right, we should be good now.
No, we're not. But okay.
Please continue, sir.
But isn't this just an example of what we're talking about in terms of seeing form rather than the essence of, we know he's there. Anyway, you're
The broader essence of death itself takes a new form when we look at it from this perspective, from the Aramaic or Hebraic perspective. So, why is it that we shed tears when someone transitions, even though we feel like they were in a better place? I think the reason is because we are so attached to form. We're so attached to form until it is extremely difficult for us to reconcile with that ourselves being in that place also. It's very difficult for us to reconcile that form leaving us and where that form is in terms of substance. Because if it were not for breath, then that substance could not have the form that it has.
Mhm.
So I think we have an issue with that. But having said that, we also have opportunity to mourn in a totally different way. And if someone transitions, and if I could absorb the attachment to the physical that you have, then your mourning will be different. It won't be through the tears that come from
hopelessness.
Yeah,
It be tears
right,
of hopelessness.
right. It would, matter of fact, it would be a sense of tears of joy.
Because we've got the assurance that mentation mentation processes, mental processes are outside of the realm of time. And time is what helps to form and shape form or physical bodies. And so when we start thinking beyond form, it's not as hard to let go because we know there's really no true separation of us. We may go through, as you say, the mourning of not actually seeing the form, the person as we saw them here. But that doesn't change the fact that their essence hasn't changed. And we're connected to that essence.
So the oral, or the thing we call the oral,
Sheldon has his hand.
is
Sheldon has his hand.
Oh, okay, Sheldon.
That wasn't my hand, but I do have something to say.
Okay.
Appreciate it. This is a quote from Rumi. My heart is so small, it's almost invisible. How can you place such big sorrows in it? And that, of course, is him speaking to, I guess, his higher self, etc. But what he refers to as the beloved. And then the answer back to himself was, "Look," he answered, "your eyes are even smaller, yet they behold the world." That goes directly what it was talking about as far as everything being in this, what we were just talking about in regards to death and what we actually see and what we actually mourn. So it's saying even though your eyes are very small and they're super small, and they actually see what you see in the world, your heart is even bigger. So there's so much more that your eyes cannot even perceive. So it's almost as if just the eyes themselves were all an illusion, which is the same way that we look at death.
Okay, thanks. Pastor, you were going to say something?
That the aura,
Mm-hmm.
we look at the aura as being my aura, your aura, and we only see it as being an outline of the body. But suppose that aura is not an aura at all, as we would term an aura, but it is a connection, for lack of a better term, to everything that exists. That it is not a piece of the puzzle that's cut out just that fits you, but is attached to everything else, representative of the invisible energy that we are. Because even breath has a physical characteristics to it.
So then, whatever the form is actually experiencing can impact the color of that aura, in a
Yes.
sense.
It's like,
Grief or things like that.
well, even before we get there, I'm thinking, what I'm seeing is that suppose we just fit into a socket, and once if the spiritual is this massive thing, right? Just this mass, that's the spirit, right? Now, suppose this mass is there, and you take a ball and push it into the mass, and it stays there, right? So surrounding that ball is this mass. So suppose that we are simply, the form is displacing that portion of everything that is. And what we call the aura is our seeing what we really are. But the form has kind of, it fits in a socket like the planets fit in the atmosphere. Can you see that?
In space.
Yeah, it's like
it's
a ball.
It's in a pocket. And
Yeah, like that.
Interesting. And the aura is a frequency.
Right.
It's a vibrational frequency.
So the aura is actually what the vibration, what vibrates in us, actually creates the color of the aura. And that's the emission of energy comes from us based on what we think, what we feel, what we experience.
Interesting. Whole another look at it. We're just talking.
Oh.
Sheldon has said this a lot in different ways. Awareness of pain is what helps, and you've said it, is what helps us see pleasure.
Yeah.
And so it's not like, so that changes the concept. Is one bad and the other good? Or is one there in order to help us experience it all? Somebody in pain now respond to that.
Well, I'm not in pain, but I definitely think it helps you to see a different reality. In a way, it almost forces you to see a different reality. So in that sense, it is that lake of fire. The same thing when a few weeks ago when Nick said, about going through something and going through your darkest moment, it forces you to realize the divinity that you have within yourself and actually to overcome it or to see further past it than what you currently can.
It gets your attention.
It definitely does that 'cause it puts you in a situation even sometimes where there is no one else who can even help you with this perceived problem that you actually have, or that you perceive yourself as having.
Well, then I guess there's a question that I have that comes automatically from that concept then. Someone who says they are happy all the time, are they really having a genuine, true experience?
They're lying. I just can't believe that someone's happy all of the time. The idea of pain actually shifts your focus. And
Gets your attention
yeah,
first.
yeah, it stops you in your tracks, so to speak. And it gets your focus, and how you deal with it determines the longevity of the pain.
My niece called me this morning. Her son fell off a bar level type stool, and this boy usually falls and gets right up, and there's no issue. He's just rough,
Yeah.
like we call him, rough rascal. But and he could lift his arm last night, but he's still whining this morning, and he's still in a lot of discomfort this morning. And I didn't even have to see, she called me, I didn't have to see him. I said, there's enough going on that we know that this is not normally him. He's fallen before, had rougher falls than this before, and bounced back and had no issues. So I said, you need to follow up and see what's going on. I don't know if it's that fracture or it doesn't matter. It's not him. So the pain is the same thing. It stops us in our tracks, gets our attention, and so then you have to ask yourself, okay, now what you gonna do?
Yeah.
We've all talked about this. We can't see ourselves as victims.
I want to go back to the pain.
Go back to the pain.
I believe that pain is there for different reasons. And there is a greater depth of pain when we deal with emotional pain than is when we deal with physical pain. And I believe the physical pain gets our attention, but if we dwell on, woe am I because I'm sick or my leg is broken, that endures and it shifts our focus from the spiritual. If there's deep emotional pain, it shifts our focus to the spiritual. Because we know that the healing of fractured emotions is totally different than the healing of a fractured arm. So the pain, the two areas, shall I say, of pain have different functions. There are those who can endure physical pain because you simply rise above it, whatever that means, or you are able to reduce or get rid of the pain through mental processes. However, with emotional, it's a bit different.
So when the origin is emotional, it's more difficult to get rid of the pain through physical mentation.
Yes. And I think it's because we are not aware of the difference. If we're not aware of the difference, then we're not aware of how to handle it. The first thing we do when we have physical pain, or one of the first things anyway, is medication to mask it. And
Or it could be that with emotional pain, we use physical approaches to
Yeah,
deal with it.
to deal with it.
Like the medication, or the alcohol, or whatever.
And that's a continual masking of it.
Yes.
But once it's dealt with, neither one of those are needed anymore.
Other comments? Okay.
Well, I'm just trying to think, the point being,
The point being that we should
I mean, those could be.
we should pay greater attention to the idea of emotional pain, because or it's easier to deal with, would be easier to deal with physical pain if we were focused on the spiritual. And I think that's the attention that Jesus was trying to get. One of the things he was trying to bring our attention to with the healings. He didn't do healings based upon physicality. He did it based upon spirituality. So the spiritual is there to heal or to bring relief in both areas, the physical as well as the emotional.
And dealing with this emotional pain also can prevent manifestation as a physical
Yes.
type pain sometimes too.
So then when we say you can't be happy all the time, we're really talking about emotional happiness. Happiness being an emotional.
Yeah,
Okay.
and that kind of happiness being influenced by, I mean, when I talk about happiness, some of that is, if we think about how it usually occurs, it's influenced by external things. There's a difference between that kind of happiness and just joy,
Right. Which is enjoyable.
regardless.
Yeah.
We can't see ourselves as victims whenever a problem occurs or arises. So regardless of how painful it is, we can't see ourselves as victims. And that's usually what we do in general. We see why me? Why did this happen to me? I can't do anything about this. Because once we make that determination that we're the victim, then that minimizes who we really are to us. If we're Elohim, how can we be a victim? If we influence worlds, but allow ourselves to be a victim in our own, how is that so? So we've got to take responsibility for accepting whatever the obstacle is, and use that occasion then to exercise. In some realms it's called certainty, in some realms it's called thought. Trust, but we got to take those experiences as an opportunity. It's like being in the gym. It's at that time that's that very opportunity to pump the weight of trust, the weight of responsibility, taking responsibility for oneself.
So, being a victim, choose to be a victim, because that's what we do. Choose to be a victim, then it's a conscious or subconscious excuse not to deal with the issue.
It's very selfish. It keeps the focus on me and what I'm going through, or what's happening to me. And it allows the blame game to start. Blaming everybody else or somebody else for what's going on with me. They may have started literally on a physical level.
Yeah.
That's not the issue. The issue is not the reaction. The issue is how we choose to respond. That's always the issue. My brother Tio says, ball's always in your court. It is. Whatever the issue is, it's always in your court, because you can choose what you got to do with it at that point. What you want to do with it, or what you choose not to do with it. All of it is about choice.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I have two things. Yes, definitely when you choose to just focus on the pain and not let it do what it's supposed to do, which is to help you become more aware of who you are. you get stuck, so you completely stop the process, or the natural process that is actually supposed to occur. And when you were talking about being the victim, there's also, yes, I have lots of, I read lots of, cause I guess you would say enlightened quotes or whatever, and think about them, etc. But one that says, above all, this is basically speaking to women, be the heroine of your life and not the victim, which is that choice that you were just talking about, where you can do either one of them, but it's completely your choice. And the more that you, little by little, you decide to be that heroine, or realize that you are that heroine, and you practice that, the bigger and bigger and the bigger that heroine is that you realize that you are, until you reach that point of Elohim. And then the other one, it relates to pain in a way. It definitely has to do with everyday situations that all of us go through. And it is from, of course, one of my favorite poets, again, Rumi. If you're irritated by every rub, how will your mirror be polished? And that polish means you getting all of that garbage and the cloudiness,
You in the mirror.
just grudge that we have placed upon ourselves to actually reveal who we truly are, or to at least see that and become aware of it.
Well, you know, this discussion right here brought me back to this concept of free will. We always think free will, we have the free will to choose to be good or bad. But free will really is about choosing to be what we truly are. That's what free will is all about. Making the choice.
So it starts well before any action.
Yeah, it's being free. It's free will is choosing to respond and to act and to think as the essence that we are. That's what free will is.
So,
Martine.
I just pulled up Matthew 7, 13 and 14. And 13 talks about getting at the straight gate, because wide is the gate and broad is the way that leads to destruction. But because straight is the gate and narrow is the way which leads to life. Now, the wide of it is talking about you feeling as though you're not going to have any distractions or obstacles. And that in itself leads to destruction, because you become self-centered. It's all about what I'm going through, as opposed to recognizing obstacles as an opportunity to strengthen you, so you can you can make this journey called life. And so when you become a victim, that means that you are traveling, or choose to be a victim rather. That means you're traveling the wide road or the wide pathway, and if you're doing that, you never get to the place of life. You never realize who you were created to be, because you're always looking at what's happening to you.
On the other hand, another way to look at that, as you were talking, I saw something else. You know how we read the Bible, and then we say things like, these things don't have to happen to me anymore. That's also setting up another consequence, in a sense, to your thinking. Because then when something does occur, because it's not always internally generated. There are external things that can elicit something, a response or reaction from us, right? It's not always internal. It's always internal in terms of the way we choose to respond to it. But the first thing that happens sometimes externally can elicit a response until we create the space. So for someone who says that, then that nothing's going to happen, my faith is secure, blah 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 blah, doesn't give opportunity for the obstacles to come into their lives so that they can be strengthened, in a sense. And then when they do come in, they can lose total perspective. Well, God, God, you told me that, I'm in you and I'm walking in you, and then we start rationalizing. I go to church, we can let that, we can create something different by the way we form and shape how we plug into God's Word and how we interpret the Word and how we say the Word. I'm supposed to respond to the Word. So I'm supposed to say I never have a headache, or I'm not. I don't know if I'm being clear or not. But we can overreact the other way. Is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It-
The blessed and highly favored type.
Yes.
In the now.
Mm-hmm.
But
Go ahead.
I have a question going back to the pain thing. Because what it's made me think about is like people who get migraines, and there doesn't seem to be any. Well, I don't get them, so. But from what I hear from people, basically they're treating the symptoms, but they don't know what really causes them so that they can treat the cause. And it only seems to be women, to a greater extent, who get them. So what is all that about?
Well, there's lots of times there are stressors that cause the blood vessels to constrict. We don't
Right.
say that. We don't want to admit that we're screening all of the stuff through ourselves, but that's part of it.
She
Yeah.
frightened me for a minute.
Hmm?
You said women get them. For the most part, help me a lot because I get them. And I'm not a woman.
Well, for the
Well, I
men, yeah,
did
for the
get them
most
rather.
part.
Yeah.
Attributes.
What happened with mine, at the time that I was getting them, I was going to school and working 8 hours. And I was in school virtually 8 hours because lab technician, it took that. So 16 hours, I'm dealing with this. And then on top of that, I was even doing counseling during that period of time, dealing with other people's issues. And usually when my migraine was triggered, it was when I was en route to school.
Mhm.
And what I did, I tried it differently. I would leave earlier to see if it was going to end every single time it happened. And they began to give me, I think it was Andrew or something, to put on my tongue. It's for the vessels. But it didn't stop until I got to the place where I was able to allow things to flow through me as opposed to holding on to them. And I have not had a migraine since. And that been, oh my God,
So we have to be like that
15, 20
net
years.
that the Indians use, that they hang over their children, that
Mhm.
filters the bad dreams out and retain the good dreams,
Yeah.
so to speak. We're that seed, in a sense. We're talking about, in general, just some general things, and we're talking about victimhood. And right now, the righteous person rejects the temptations of victimhood, because that is one of the temptations. This is another way of saying what we just talked about. Rejects the temptation of victimhood. We accept the responsibility for everything that comes in our lives. And, ooh, this is hard. And welcome adversity. That's what we were just talking about. Obstacles, things like that come in our lives. Well, we ought to welcome that. We welcome it as an opportunity to show how much we love and trust God, and therefore love and trust ourselves. Welcome adversity. That's kind of hard, isn't it? That's, if it was a physical pill, it would be a hard physical pill to swallow. It would be like one of those calcium pills, it's that big, and it gets stuck in your throat.
That's a spoonful of sugar medicine?
Why'd you say
The top of that, what probably you're really not going to hear. What makes it worse is as you continually accept adversity and you overcome that adversity, the adversity also is going to become heightened as well as you encounter them.
He could have just kept that.
The pill gets bigger and bigger.
Yeah.
How is he supposed to grow?
We were talking about.
In the name of Jesus.
She said she rebuked that in the name of Jesus.
You can rebuke all you want to, but adversity will come. It will come. How we choose, but we need to look at it as an opportunity. We just said that.
You understand?
It's gonna come. So if we understand that, why are, I mean, just know, adversity is an adverse thought. It can come in different forms. It can be that person in your job. It can come in different forms. But so just know that it is going to come.
Yeah, because you play a role in accepting what is adversity. So another way of looking at it is you decided that it was adversity, which is the reason why the adversity is going to become heightened. Because you at a certain point say, okay, A, B, and C, I no longer consider that as adversity. And then once you get to Z, Z basically knocks you off your feet because you haven't got to that position, or you haven't got to that point where Z is no longer an adversity. So yes, you decide what adversity is as well.
That's true. But whatever you decide, something's going to happen that causes you to pause. Okay? And it's what you do with it at that point that makes it real, or creates the form in your mind. Not the form, but creates the shape, which is not so much as a form, in your mind of how are you going to let that affect you.
And when we say how we're going to let it affect us, just so it does not seem so detached from us, please also understand that we are creating the adversity to ourselves.
Yes.
And it is a part of like I said, a growth process. So don't look at it as some adversary force giving you the adversity. No, that is you. And you're actually doing yourself a favor, even though you may not realize it.
So everything's an opportunity. Whatever happens is an opportunity. Yes, sir.
When I was describing what happened with migraine, right? That was the adverse. That was adverse, even though I didn't realize I was subconsciously creating that adversity. But it's something greater than that dawned on me when you talked about the constriction of the vessels, and I talked about how I learned to let it flow through. You see you see the physicality of it, allowing it to flow through, but the constriction of the vessels, the life of the flesh is in the blood. So the moment I allowed it to flow through, then the blood can also flow through. So you have to let the virtue flow through.
So I can't just capture it in a net and say, and then have the pity party and say, woe is me for a little while.
No, you have to let it flow. It's got to go.
Let it flow. Got to go. Let it flow. Okay.
The cure of the pain is in the pain. When we come up with anti-venom for anything, like a snake bite or something like that, it is from that particular venom, that poisonous substance, that the anti-venom is derived from.
So the cure of the pain is always understanding your genuine essence, your essence. It's, as you say, it pushes you back to, especially emotional pain, pushes you back to who you are, what your purpose is. So what is your take on the cure of the pain is in the pain? Sheldon?
My take on this is definitely, it's forced me to the position as a person that I am today. regards to, let's see, let's think of it as a superhero. And let's say all of us are superheroes and we have these like abnormal specialties or powers or whatever. And as a child who is just born, you're given opportunities to practice this over and over again until you're this superhero or whatever, to the point where you're able to help others or pretty much essentially save the world. So that's pretty much how I see it. So if you never go through those things, then how will you ever be in a position to help another person? If you never go through these things, how will you relate to another person? Because when you relate to another person and when you see yourself in that person and you become one with them, that's when you notice all the things in them that are the same with you. So you basically you recognize yourself. So you have to do that with pretty much everyone that you come across in life, just to even relate to them. So all of this is a natural process, is extremely important.
So all of these things also help you know you.
Definitely, which is also why you shouldn't put that box around yourself when you explained earlier that in regards to the Bible or anything can be used to stifle yourself and not allow yourself to grow, because you've already defined yourself as saying, okay, this is me. These are the qualities that I embody, and all of these other qualities I don't embody. So it's very dangerous, I guess, in a way, to look at someone and to think down upon them as well. Because just how we said, the pain is in the pain, whatever pain that is going through, whatever experience that person is going through, you kind of in a way deny yourself of that experience. Which I guess is one of the things when we went to Philly that we noticed with all of the people who were in the drug rehab program. Even though we may not have been on drugs or had some type of addiction, well, horrible addiction. I guess there are many addictions, but we didn't have the same addiction that they had. We still, in ourselves, could see ourselves in them and could relate. And just by us seeing ourselves in them and being able to relate, we were also, whether we were conscious of it or not, we were able to grow and take a lesson from them and their experiences just because we could share that experience with them. So those are the types of things that pain allows you to do.
Well, can I address that?
Yes, sir.
That the experience, when you mentioned the Philly experience, that morning when we went to that session, everyone talked about how it was the greatest experience we had, and that was the one time we didn't talk. And that was the shortest period of time that we were at any one place. So it was, I think it was more for us to learn than it was for us to teach someone. And the learning took place without us uttering a word or asking a question.
So another way to say this then, we're just talking, is that all experiences that we have are there to show us our limitlessness. Because we are Elohim. All experiences are there. Whether we call them adverse, whether we call them opportunities, they're experiences that show us who we are. And they help us understand that we are limitless. Any limits that are set, we create them. Any boundaries that are set around anything, corral, fence, whatever.
I just figured it out too. Well, some just occurred.
What'd you figure out?
That pain is the limit that we have set.
It's a boundary. It's a. And you can call it pain, but it's anything. Anything that
Is that fence that needs
creates
to be
a barrier that prevents us from moving forward.
Is that border that needs to be pushed out further. That's all pain is.
Believe it or not, George W. Bush said something that really opens us up. He said that people who are fearful build walls, but people who are confident tear down walls.
We're confident, tear down walls.
Yes, tear down walls. That's the same thing that we're talking about here. If you're confident in knowing who you are, you tear down all of those walls rather than build them.
One of the quotes from Zor, one of the concepts is that we ourselves, and we just said this, we ourselves and no one else, we ourselves, no one else, or no thing else. We ourselves are responsible for the distance and the obstacles that exist between us and the Creator. The walls, the fear which creates the walls. We are responsible for that. We are responsible for the distance and the obstacles that exist between us and our Creator. So that, I guess that sort of sums up everything that we've been talking about in this little segment about pain and adversity and whatever. Whatever it is, we have to take the responsibility for it. And the thing about responsibility is when we take the responsibility for it, it portends that we can actually do something about it then. Whereas when we see ourselves as the victim, it's like it sets the mindset that it's all happening to me, or somebody's doing it to me and I can do nothing about it. So one allows us to dig a grave for ourselves and bury our heads, get more and more depressed. And the other one says, this is hard, but I accept the responsibility. And now that I know that I'm responsible, then I'm responsible for designing the way out of this, or designing the way through this, or charting the course through this. You see how one is empowering and the other one is not? So even though responsibility and accepting responsibility seems to be the harder thing, it is the thing that empowers us even more. Resonate with you? If it doesn't, say so and let's talk about it. So we can reason.
I watched, for an umpteenth time, I guess, the Untold Story of Emmett Till. And what dawned on me the other day when I was watching it was how his mom empowered herself from what happened to him, thus empowering a whole race of people. Because there are people who, they say that everything started with Rosa Parks, but it didn't. It started with Emmett Till. And what started it was she felt like she needed to let the world see what happened to him, so she allowed everyone to view his body. And that's where she got her strength from. The thing that would appear to have been an adverse circumstance became a source of strength for her, and gave her the strength to persevere in the face of all the threats that she got. So I guess what I'm saying is that if we were able to take that same perseverance and make application to the Elohim, who we really are, or to overcome the obstacles in our lives, that same type of perseverance, we can not only empower ourselves, but we can also empower mankind by virtue of the energy that flows from that.
And what you said has brought us full circle to what we started the discussion with about righteousness, that it seems that it doesn't matter how great or small, it's not measured as large or small. But righteousness has to do with the greater power residing in that which seems small and insignificant. Now look at the bigger picture of what you just said as it relates to Emmett Till. He's just one black
14-year-old boy.
14-year-old boy who was killed. How many thousands of black people have been killed. So looking at it that way is just seemingly a small, insignificant experience. But it didn't have to be. And so the point is, each one of us are those seemingly small, insignificant kinds of experience. But there's power in us. And that power begins when we empower ourselves instead of accepting victimhood. When we assume responsibility for ourselves instead of accepting victimhood. And when we do that, it impacts everybody whose lives we come in contact with. So in other words, it's just what you just said. It touches other worlds. We touch other worlds. And we can touch other worlds with our victimhood and bring down somebody else and make them feel depressed and make them feel there's no way out. Or we can say to ourselves, you know what, I'm responsible for this, and I accept that responsibility. And you get the point, it is what it is, and I'm moving through it. And as a matter of fact, you know, what I started doing is not, as I think Sheldon was trying to tell us, we define adversity. Well, he didn't try to tell us, that's what he said. We define what adversity is. And so I'm the things I'm saying to myself now when things happen is, it is what it is. And not put a box around it. It is what it is. I don't have to be a victim. I'm moving on. It shifts, literally shifts your thinking, and it opens up creative ideas for moving through it. It literally does that. And in other words, it recreates that first primordial creation when no thing contracted and created space so that something could come into being into the physical. That's what we do every time we make a decision like that. We create that space so the wisdom provides for us the answer to move through whatever it is that we're moving through, or to get past whatever it is we're getting past. So we got the universe on our side and we assume the responsibility. That's what I'm saying. When we accept victimhood, we just got us. And sometimes we feel that we don't even have us because we just heap the dirt on us and I can't do anything to get out of this. I can't do this. Everybody just keeps doing, pressing me down. You know, make a decision.
Yeah, you don't even have yourself because you look at yourself as being not good enough at that moment when you have victimhood. So you have nothing.
I'm that mat that everybody else steps on. And, you know, we can make the choice. It's up to us. And that's easy for us to say. It's only those experiences that make it easier and easier and easier to say. But know that those experiences seemingly come more often just to help us hone ourselves in a sense. So, it's not an easy thing to talk about today if we just think about it in our own within our own physical mentality. It's easy if we look at it from a spiritual perspective. That isn't it better to have the universe along with us than us by ourselves or not us at all? Anyway, just a different way to look at it. Reality diminishes in direct proportion to physicality. More physical, reality. You don't even know it's what real is. Less physical, mindset is, our focus is less physical, then we can see the real. And I don't mean see it with the physical eyes, but with the third eye. Does that resonate? No? Because if it doesn't, we need to talk about it. And it may still not resonate. You know, sometimes you got to leave and then think on and ponder and meditate on something before you should go back here. That's okay. almost at the end of mine. I keep trying to set the tone. All right, I got it, don't worry. Oh, this is a good one right here. Think about this. Merit on the physical plane. Merit, M-E-R-I-T, on the physical plane is linked to anonymity in the physical world. Let me rephrase that because I didn't say it right. Merit in the spiritual plane. Merit in the spiritual plane is linked to anonymity in the physical. Okay. I said it wrong. Sorry about that. Merit on the spiritual plane is linked to anonymity. I gotta get that. Anonymity in the physical. Can you see a politician accepting that easily? Can you see a power-grabbing rich person accepting that in the physical? What would happen if we all accepted that premise? But that would have to assume that we all believe in that spiritual plane, and that we are all spiritual beings.
You know, we've heard that said a different way all our lives at church. We really have. But we've seen how it plays out totally the opposite. The statements like, it doesn't matter if I don't get credit for what I've done. But at the same time,
You left my name off the program.
yeah, or at anniversary time, you missed one of my accomplishments, that kind of thing.
When we send out to vibrations that of one thing, and then we seemingly send out the negative, the universe doesn't know how to respond to that. It responds, to the negative, because we don't know what we want. So we've got to be consistent in our spiritual focus and thought, and in how that manifests in and through us also. So it has to be aligned, it has to be consistent. I don't know if that resonates.
Say
or
that
not,
again?
when we send, let me just take an easy one. When we say I am Elohim on the one hand, and then we become the victim on another, says, I feel like a nobody. I just, the vibration that went out, I am Elohim, and the vibration when we went through this experience, I'm a nobody. They conflict. Because if I am less than who I really am, which is Elohim, it conflicts. And those are the vibrations that get set. Is it no wonder that things are chaotic out there? With all of these vibrations, these schizophrenic vibrations come from schizophrenic thoughts of who we are. Is there any wonder that anything's happening right out there?
And that's confusion.
Yeah.
Yes, chaos. That contributes to it, definitely.
But then that's, when we look at weather patterns, that's the universe responding to our chaotic condition. That's what it is. We don't know what we want.
So, if you want sunshine and snow, you get sunshine today and snow tomorrow. And the cold and everything else that goes on. Certainty in the Creator, a trust in our Creator, is the first and foremost, is first and foremost an internal kind of thing. It's an internal state of mind. It's an internal, and I don't mean the physical mind. It's an internal, has to be in our essence of who we are. Just trust, knowing and trusting. And then we can connect with the world of trust and order and leave behind this illusion of chaos and disorder. But we've got to be that. We've got to create that in our world before it manifests. And I mean not our external world. We've got to create it within the essence of what our world really is first, and then it can then manifest and touch other people, because we will respond to people differently. We will speak differently. There are things that we will not entertain in our thought and allow to get in our heart, which are negative. We would do lots of things differently if we had that truth of our being within our essence. It is within our essence. We just have to be aware of it.
So, when the writer of Leviticus writes, the life of the flesh is in the blood, then it's saying, in essence, that the cosmic energy that we are is manifested in the physical. So if we recognize wholeheartedly the cosmic energy that we are, the manifestation of it in the physical renders us, or carries us to a state that Enoch had experienced.
And in the process of getting to that state, it impacts the physical world as we're
Tremendously.
in it. And so things could be a lot worse, guys. Just think how many things are going because of righteous people with righteous thoughts. That's why. But it could be better.
Is when we talk about accepting responsibility, right? And we talk about we are Elohim, then the responsibility that we must accept is not the responsibility for ourselves.
It's for everybody.
It's for mankind, period. So it's incumbent upon those who accept who they are to what?
But I gotta accept it for myself before I understand that it's not just me, it's mankind. Because when I accept it for myself, I touch others.
I guess what I'm trying to see is that happens simultaneously. That once I accept it wholeheartedly for myself, instantly began to affect everybody else. So that's a simultaneous thing.
Because my response will be different when I reach that level of awareness. Or it should be different, or I haven't done it yet. When I know that I know who I am, my response is different from the way that it would have been in terms of reactions when I didn't know. If that makes...
I think you just stated what's in the 82nd Psalm. The things that prohibit us from seeing that we are Elohim, from being unjust, and other stuff, of course.
Unless we can see the end and the beginning, unless we can see the big picture, unless we can see the end and the beginning, then and that's because that's the way the Creator sees it. There is no end and there is no beginning, I guess is the essence of what I'm getting ready to say. It can appear to us that evil in the world is overwhelming relative to good. It can appear that evil is overwhelming. relative to good. And so we've just been talking about the way we define things. Being part of that victimization kind of mindset, you see the evil, you don't see the good. But we're called to do better. We're called to see the end and the beginning. We're called to see that the beginning is intertwined with the end. And that they are one and the same. No comments about that?
Wouldn't that be the same thing you just started with? And the future's in front, the future and past is what we call the past.
No questions about that? Sheldon, no comment about that?
That's why we talk about the cycle of life. That's why truth, one of the understandings of truth, I'm going to make is a circle with an opening. So that is the reason we don't only talk about the cycle of life, but we live in cycles. Seemingly every cycle that we have lived in has moved us further and further away from who we truly are.
Seemingly.
Yeah.
And we have to keep saying that word seemingly.
Yeah. That's how it appears.
Yeah.
Because, well, when the scripture talks about people becoming more evil, it's more unright than what they were. And how do you become unright? The more attached we become to the things that we have created, the further it appears that we are from the source of all creation. And attachments don't necessarily have to be a craving for things, but it can be the reverse of that, the reverse of that.
For instance?
Like, I don't buy something because I feel like it's a waste of money, when in essence I really need it. You see? Because it could benefit not just me but others. That's another way of being attached to things.
Okay, so you can, it's the other,
The spectrum. Or
other end of the spectrum of selfishness.
yes, it's a backdoor way to selfishness.
Our thoughts, our feelings, and especially our spiritual awareness, our thoughts, our feeling, and especially our spiritual awareness determine the events in our external world. So we're saying the same thing, just in slightly different ways. We already said this. So, I believe that's,
Sheldon
I got a question?
You're not gonna get off that easy, Miss Bob.
Well, go ahead on then.
Back to what Pastor Richard just said just now. I didn't get to hear everything he said, but in regards to him being able to let go of things, purchase things, etc., that lets you actually see yourself as owning anything, the more you actually own in a sense. So, for example, whenever you take claim to something like my house, my car, my clothes, there's only a limited amount of things that you can actually take claim to. However, I mean, in all reality, all the other things that you do own or you that are a part of you and you have access to, those things you're not acknowledging. So really, conceptually, for all the things that you own, really own, it's nowhere possible for you to actually see yourself as owning them. So when you own nothing, you own everything. And the other thing that speaks to it as well is that the more that you're able to do that, it's not to actually like gain it. Like, yeah, okay, if I don't claim nothing, that means I own everything. So I own his house, his car, and all this other stuff in the sense of like a prosperity preacher, but more so in the sense that you see yourself as being less as some physical entity. So in that way, consciously you become more. And I say consciously because you're already that, you just are not conscious of it. So consciously you become more. So that's all I want to say in regards to that.
And we're back full circle again to what we started with again. This concept of the greatest power is seemingly in that which is small and insignificant. And that's from this world view, it seems small and insignificant. So. Other thoughts? Okay, Pastor, you can come do what you're going to do today.
Well, the still small voice.
It's still small voice.
Yeah, you, was it Elijah? He was looking for God anyway, and in the mountain, but he appeared in what the scripture says is still small voice.
Mm.
So when we talk about that little voice that we hear, and we disobey it or we disregard it, that's the power. That's where the power lies. And to disregard it is to disregard the power that we have to overcome or to deal with a situation that's at hand. Or one that is coming.
And to disregard it could be not planting that forest of oak trees because we disregarded that one still small voice about this one issue.
Yes. Because the one issue is not one issue, but it is one issue.
But it's a seed also. Everything is a seed. So.
Right. So the one seed appears to be one seed on the surface. But, and that's, I guess that's where we are. If that one seed is allowed to mature into what it was designed to become, then it looks nothing like it did as it was when it was a seed. And if that is true with a tree or any other plant, then that has to be true with us. When we reach maturity, we don't look like anything that we appear to be before we reach that maturity. And the look like is not the change in the physical body, but it's the change in the spiritual awareness. And that is one of those times when people say something different about you. And, or when you become a magnet for everyone else's problems or issues. It's simply because you are maturing from the person that you thought you were.
So just like that physical seed of the 14-year-old boy called Emmett Till was buried and has now become something that has transformed the world, on the spiritual plane also, the spiritual seed transforms not only this world, but other worlds. I mean, it all feeds into other things. It's ever expansive. The seed is ever expansive.
And you don't ever know what seed what seed it is. No one could have imagined the magnitude of what transpired as a result of an open coffin. Because in essence, that's what it was, an open coffin. That was the seed. No one could imagine what would transpire as a result of that. So that in itself talks about merit in the spiritual realm is anonymity in the physical.
So, there's nothing small in our lives. There is absolutely nothing small in our lives. We are not victims. We take responsibility. And when we take responsibility, wisdom prevails and allows us to go through or overcome whatever experiences we have, so that they all are for our good.
Victim. When we talk about victimization, the greatest sense of being a victim to overcome is self-victimization. Not what someone brings to you externally, but what you allow to victimize you, whether it be words from someone that you ponder, or whether it be a broken leg that you seek sympathy for. You know, so being a victim is not necessarily what someone does to you. It's what you do to yourself also. When Randy was rebuking Jesus, to see things as adversity, as an adversity that stops you in your tracks and keeps you from moving forward, is becoming a victim to that circumstance, no matter what it is.
Seed time and harvest was not a thing that I had in my mind today, but when we come full circle, it seems that that's what this has all been about. Seeds, and what kinds of seeds are planted, because in its season, whatever that season is, whatever's planted, when rightly provided the right soil and the right light and the right food, will yield. So my question to you is, how does your garden grow? All right, that's all I have to ask. My question for you to think about this week is, how does your garden grow? What did you plant?
Let's go.
And what are you continuing to plant?
My whole thing was going to be revisiting the idea of this is my body which is broken for you.
That's seed.
That's it. So we're on the same plane in relationship to the flesh and the spirit. Yeah.
Okay.
Same thing.
Any other comments today? All right.
Nope.
I have one about victimhood.
All right.
It's just a quote from Gandhi. Nobody can hurt me without my permission. Well, it's the same thing. It works the same way in regards to being a victim. You give your permission, so you actively decide to be a victim.
Thank you. So if whatever that happens, whatever it is that causes me pain, I give it permission to give me pain. All right. So if I allow that thorn to grow in my seed, that's because I allowed that thorn to grow in my seed, in my garden, right? All right. Okay. And we okay. All right.
Well,
Wait, I do have one question. I can't get We talked about no one can be happy all the time. But if people can be sad all the time, can't someone be happy all the time? I mean, you know, folks who have depression and such, it's a physical ailment. Couldn't there be people who are happy all the time, physically, you know, some kind of miswiring?
Physical ailment.
Some kind of miswiring, is that what I heard you say?
Well, that's what happens when you're sad all the time. You know, depression is kind of a psychosis.
Well, but you know what? I'm just wondering if sad people really are sad all the time. I mean, they are getting some kind of positive reinforcement from whatever the response is. Somehow, even if we don't call it, because I know of someone who self-abuses and injures their own body, but they're getting something out of it. And for me to look at it, I'd say that person is, boy, they hate themselves. Well, I can put all kinds of words and containers to describe that, but they're doing it because they're getting something gratifying out of that. Now, whether we would consider it gratification or not is not the issue. The issue is how they are defining that gratification for them. So, then I'm back to your question that I didn't answer it, but I'm throwing it back to you.
I know someone who's clinically depressed, and he's happy sometimes.
Even in his depression.
Even in his depression, he's happy sometimes.
They're getting something out of it, Rainier.
Yeah, I just didn't know if there might be a psychosis for the other direction.
Well, there are some people who, if they say they're happy, they could be in a psychosis because they could be denying lots of things that they need to be dealing with.
Denial.
Yeah.
So we live in Egypt. Thank you.
That is bondage.
You can choose to live there, yeah. Okay.
Okay, that's all I had. I wasn't close enough to ask it when y'all were talking about it.
Okay.
I was
truth
gonna ask
is-
something, but I forgot.
Oh, you forgot it. You want me to give you a minute to see if you remember it?
It had to do with what you were talking about.
With the sadness and the
Prior to.
Before Rainier asked her question.
how does your garden grow?
Your garden?
What seeds you plant?
Don't try to think about it.
You can ask that question next week before Pastor speaks. When he asks,
That's a broad
are there
assumption.
any questions?
That's a broad assumption.
Plant seeds. Okay, then that's it. That's it for today. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your input and for your willingness to open your third eye and view things a little bit differently. The truth of the light that we are and the light of truth that we are has us to know that every thought and every action is a seed that will bear fruit. And what kind of fruit is up to you and I. Amen. I had one question today, Pastor, but that's it.
Okay. Rainier, Sheldon, Barry, everyone else who's looking and listening.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.